What's going on YouTube? Mr. Wheels here once again, bringing you another episode of Sports Talk. I'm going to be talking about the men's Olympic hockey semifinals. Both of them, the first one between Canada and the USA, and then I'll talk a little bit about Finland and Sweden. But first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Canadian women on winning their fourth straight gold medal against the US. Valiant effort by the American women, but Canada just had a great comeback. And tomorrow's semifinal between Canada and the U.S. in men's hockey should be just as exciting. I want to start talking about the goalies first. I think that, in my opinion, I think Jonathan Quick has a bit of an edge in goal. The thing is that all four teams remaining have the best goalies left in the tournament, and Jonathan Quick is no exception. So I think he's a bit better goalie than Carey Price, just with the way he's been playing. I mean, both of those guys, Quick and Price, didn't play great coming into the Olympic break, but I'd say the Americans have a bit of an edge in goal. However, Canada definitely has the best team defense in the tournament, and they've proven that because that's where they've got the majority of their scoring from. Drew Doughty and Shea Weber, I mean, what can you say? Weber's got a cannon of a shot, and Drew Doughty is probably one of the best defensemen I've ever seen. I would say he's one of the best defensemen in the last 10 to 15 years or longer. Whereas as for the Americans, I'm not saying their defense is bad. They've obviously got some decent guys back there, and Ryan Suter is the first one that comes to mind, and I can't really think of any others, but at this point in time anyway. But I would just say that if I had to give the edge to anybody, it would be Canada in terms of who's got the better defense. Forward-wise, now on paper, I could jump to say that Canada has the best group of forwards, not just going into their semifinal game versus the U.S., but out of the four teams left in the tournament. On paper, Canada has the best group of forwards. However, they're not performing the way they should be. Throughout the tournament, at least everyone in Canada anyway, has made such a big deal about who's going to play with Crosby. I think Chris Kunitz kind of looks out of his element, even if he is playing with Crosby. The NHL isn't really that comparable to the Olympics, in my opinion. And that being said, I think performance-wise, the U.S. has the better performing group of forwards heading into the semifinal game. Canada's going to have to shut down the likes of Kessel and JVR, who are on the same line. Then you've got to deal with Patrick Kane, and Dan Bylsma has already come out and said that he wants to put the line of Callahan, Brown, and Backus out against the Crosby line in an attempt to shut them down. So it should be a good game. I really don't know what else to say other than I think Canada is going to be able to pull themselves together and move on to the gold medal final. I mean, for those in the States that may be viewing this video, sorry, but I am a Canadian, so I got to go with my home country on this one. Not saying the U.S. doesn't have a good team, but it's going to be definitely a good showdown. We're seeing the game, one game before I think everyone would like. This was anticipated to be the gold medal final, I'm sure, by a lot of people, but hasn't really turned out that way. So, moving on to the second semifinal, Sweden versus Finland is also a huge rivalry, and it shouldn't be any less of a good game than when in comparison to the U.S. and Canada. Again, starting with the goaltenders, I think they're both pretty evenly matched. Uh, Finland for Tukaras for Finland, and Henrik Lundqvist for Sweden. Uh, Now, Finland coming off their huge upset victory over Russia, or in my opinion, it was an upset. Uh, I might give the edge to a guy like Rask, but you can never count Henrik Lundqvist out. I'm not saying he's a bad goalie or that he's any less capable of winning for Sweden, but I just like the way that Finland, has taken Canada to overtime and beaten the Russians, and I think they have the momentum coming into this semifinal game against Sweden. However, Sweden is a lot like they've kind of been playing a lot like the U.S. has. I find with it's been fairly easy for them to score goals. They've beaten some good teams, but Sweden's really going to have to get some depth scoring like they did against Slovenia of all teams. They had Louis Eriksson and Carl Hagelin stepping up and scoring goals, and I think for the rest of the way in this tournament, they're going to have to continue to get depth scoring because they've got one of the Sedin brothers out, and Henrik Zetterberg is also out, so scoring by committee for both Sweden and Finland is important. With Finland in terms of their scoring, they have their way of playing is they use a stifling defensive system, and they kind of sit back on their heels and wait for their chances and really frustrate the other teams and fight for every inch out there, and that's exactly what they're going to have to keep doing. But let's not be mistaken that even with Alexander Barkov out, the Finns are you can't count them out. And I liked how in their game against Canada they got somebody in front of the net and were able to put a puck past Carey Price, and I think that's exactly what they're going to have to do against Henrik Lundqvist. As for the defense for both teams, I think you would give the edge to Sweden, with guys like Carlson leading the way and Johnny Oduya and Victor Hedman and Nicholas Tomerson. On paper, again, they have the better defense, but Finland doesn't have they've got a lot of guys that have NHL experience that don't play in the NHL anymore. Talking about guys like Lassi Kukkonen and Ozzy Vananen, and then they've got some young guys. I think on defense they're led by a guy like Sami Salo, and they've got some other young guys in their defensive core as well. So both semifinal games are going to be awesome. And I'm picking Canada in the Canada-US semifinal, and I'm gonna go with the underdog, in my opinion, in the second one and take Finland, just because I think they have the momentum with their upset win over Russia. So please, I'd ask you to like up this video and subscribe. And let me know what you think. Let me know who you want to win, who you think's gonna win. Tell me what you think of men's hockey in the Olympics. Should it stay in the Olympics? And I will see you next time.